I'm about to pitch something. And if you read the title of this video, you might be going, well, duh. But I actually think this is less common than you would think. You should do this for your own characters. GM, you should ask this at session 0. What is a clear, burning goal for your character? This is beyond just figuring out who they are or trying to figure out their vibe. I'm talking about a drive, a burning want, something that is always there, whispering at the back of their brain. And I can give you an example from my own experience. Before I jump into this, however, I am going to be talking about a lot of serious and dark subject matter, very possible triggers for what I'm going to be talking about. Me and some of my close friends decided to play a much darker game, and the story I'm about to tell has a lot of trigger warnings for it. Skip this one if anything along the lines of sexual assault, suicide, violence, and more bother you, especially if they're in regards to teenagers. I just really want to make that clear before going in. Keep yourself safe, and yeah, I already said give this a watch if that doesn't bother you, but if it does bother you in any way, just give it a skip and protect yourself first. That being said, let's jump into the story. So Eve was a character I played during a long-running Monsterhearts 2 campaign. She was the disciple, which is a skin about devotion, self-sacrifice, and transformation. Eve was my character in Monsterhearts 2. She worships a fictional goddess named Marlena that is kind of an amalgamation of female goddesses and figures in history that was conceived to be the goddess of female rage, feminine rage, and vengeance. Marlena was a very important and fun part of her story, but at the heart of it, her story wasn't really about magic or monsters, especially in compared to the other players that were in the campaign. But as Monsterhearts or Monsterhearts 2 tends to do, behind the fantastical elements, her story was very human. And rather than magic or monsters, it was about grief. Eve had a best friend named Nina. Nina was bright, wild, funny. They were not in a romantic relationship, but I used to say that they were soulmates. They were very close with each other's families. They were fiercely protective of each other. They loved each other. And one night at a house party that Eve was not attending, before the start of the campaign, something awful happened to Nina. She was sexually assaulted with multiple people witnessing it, and a recording was made of what happened to her, and eventually it was put online. This is something very real, and her abusers never faced justice, and eventually Nina took her own life as a result of what happened to her and the ongoing trauma of the ridicule and humiliation that she was faced from the video, and also the fact that she was never able to see justice for what had happened to her. All this took place off screen before the campaign started, and so at the start of the campaign, Eve had a very simple but all-consuming goal: find out who was responsible and make them pay. This goal was very easily distilled to one sentence. Just a few words informed everything about the character immediately. I already knew why she worshipped Marlena. It shaped her backstory, her current behavior, her dynamics with the other characters, including the other players. I was able to flesh out who she was quicker and more effectively and more completely than I ever had before. And it was a lot easier to roleplay her because of it. I used that one goal as my North Star. There were times my focus was elsewhere and other things were happening, but I could always go back and return to my one true goal, the thing that mattered more than anything else. Every decision, every interaction, every risk, every manipulation was guided by that one goal. It wasn't random or played for edgy drama either. Nina was a fleshed out character. Her presence or ghost was haunting Eve and the narrative itself every step of the way. As a player, it acted as my compass in two major ways. First, it gave my character purpose and momentum. I very quickly came up with a master plan and worked to implement that plan from the very start. Any lull in the game, any opportunity I saw, I went for it. I pushed my plan forward. For Eve, it required multiple steps, and she took the time and effort to go through each step one by one throughout the campaign, and she ended up playing a puppet master role, carefully playing her chess pieces at the right time, all in service to this one goal. Generally, though, it allowed me to take initiative with my choices. I went and talked to certain people for a reason. I went to specific places for this reason. I took certain actions and made certain decisions for this reason. Secondly, it acted as an emotional throw line I could go to. This goal mattered to Eve. Beyond anything else in her life, she reacted to other characters a certain way because of it. Other characters treated her a certain way because of what happened. She reacted to things largely because of this traumatic event, and because she had this goal. Alliances were made because of it. Enemies were made because of it. Her entire relationship with her goddess was stronger because she wasn't being fed false promises. She was actively helping her achieve the one thing she wanted more than anything else. And even if that came at a cost to Eve, that was worth it. And that informed one of the most important relationships that Eve had in the game. And that's the power of a goal. It also helped my game master as well. They knew the backstory. They knew about this burning goal, and it became fused with the story. They had something to tempt me with, to challenge me with, to push my character. And in the end, it was one of the most memorable stories I have ever been a part of. It was dark. It touched on real world trauma and pain, and we kept it safe for us. We all used safety tools, we maintained boundaries, and we had communication. We handled the subject matter with, I think, the care and reverence that it deserved. We supported each other, but you don't have to play with these intense themes like we did. Now, I won't lie, Eve's story was dark. It touched on real world trauma and pain, but the point of this video is because I started with a strong goal, Eve's story felt earned. It felt real. We were all invested in the journey and how it would end. And even though your goal doesn't have to be so tragic or dark, it doesn't have to follow that exact same wavelength, it does have to be important, at least to your character. So ask yourself, what does your character want more than anything? And what are they willing to get it? And once you find an answer to that, that's going to be the heart of your story. Thank you for listening. If you have experienced anything like what we have talked about today, know that you are not alone and help is available. I'm going to provide resources down below. I know it was a lot of heavy themes, especially regarding what the thesis was, just about giving your character a goal. But I hope I touched on this topic with the proper respect and care it deserves. As a woman living in a world that often feels so dangerous and scary, in a very particular way, This story that I created with my friends was actually very cathartic and meaningful for me, and I do want to talk about it a little, and maybe it'll be the subject of future videos on this channel. Stay safe and stay weird.